Greetings, diners, and welcome to the Cooking Zone here on the Doomstead Diner. And today it is time to get back to the diner's 7th anniversary feast. And for our feast, we're having a surf and turf, which is a combination of a beef portion and a fish portion. The fish portion, usually shellfish. And this being Alaska, the choice of shellfish was Alaskan king crab, which is what this stuff is here. And if you have been following the Cooking Zone, you saw me cut this king crab leg up into chunks, which is where it is now. It was an enormous king crab leg, one of the biggest I ever saw, and that's the reason I bought it, or them. I actually had to buy several of them, and this is going to follow up. As you can see, it comes in at around 400 grams, a little bit under a pound of king crab, which is more king crab than I am going to eat in one sitting. So I am not going to cook all this up for myself at once. A lot of it's going to get refrozen. And in Alaska, we have king crab. In Maine, if you order a surf and turf, you're going to probably get lobster, and down in the south, Louisiana, Texas, you might get Gulf shrimp with it, and sometimes here in Alaska you get salmon, whatever. But king crab, to me, up here is the class of a surf and turf. And the turf portion usually is a ribeye steak, or maybe a prime rib, and or a filet mignon, something like that. And usually you get about a half a pound of the shellfish, and then a 12 to 16 ounce piece of beef with your surf and turf, which is more meal than I can eat, and that's not even including an appetizer and side dishes like a baked potato and so forth. So I have to reduce my meal sizes. But anyway, why did I cut it up into chunks? Why didn't I just leave it as one long leg and serve it the way most seafood restaurants, at least up here and down in the lower 48 too, will serve this sort of thing as one long leg with drawn butter and lemon, and you just open it up yourself and then consume it. Well, the reason is twofold. First of all, that leg was too damn big to fit into any pot that I have to do steaming. It had to be cut up in some way, but I could have just sectioned it up into its the leg has various joints in it, and I could have just sectioned the joints. That would have fit fine. But this is the diner's 7th anniversary special, and I wanted to do something a little different and make it special. So I decided, instead of doing a typical steaming, that I would cook it Tappan style, which is the Japanese method of cooking. If you've ever been to Benihana's or one of the restaurants that has the Tappan tables, where the chef cooks everything out in front of you, then you know Tappan, and it's a very nice experience, generally speaking, entertaining and so forth. It's not just the food, it's watching it, and the chefs juggle knives and they do all sorts of tricks, which is cool. And you won't see me doing any of those tricks. But I will still cook Tappan style, and my Tappan hopefully will come out as good or better than most restaurants that serve it up. Certainly better than the last Benihana that I went to, which, well, I won't say which one it was, but it was way too salty. Anyway, and in Japan, you can get Tappan that is really good with Wagyu beef and, just squid and all sorts of goodies that they serve you one after another. And you can pay through the nose for that meal. $500, $1,000 for a meal. I don't know how much that is in yen these days, but it's a lot of fucking money. And how they are affording that in Japan these days, given where they're at economically, I have no idea. But anyway, in order to be ready for the Tappan grill, these things still need further preparation. Cutting them up into chunks, and you might have seen my video on doing that, which was, done kind of humorously. Take some additional tools. And I have numerous tools for this purpose. If you get a crab or something like that normally, or a lobster, they give you tools like this, which is like a nutcracker, and this is a teeny weeny little fork, okay, to pick the meat out of the legs, which it's not really necessary for a king crab, but for something like a snow crab that has much thinner legs, they're very helpful. But for crabs, a nutcracker doesn't work well on the legs because the legs are flexible and they squish rather than crack when you hit them with the nutcracker. So you have to cut through the shell in some way. And with lobster, you can crack them with those things, no problem. Lobsters tend to have harder shells. So I have a few tools, and I'm not going to go through them all to do this cutting with, but the main ones that I use are not found in the cooking department of your local food superstore where they sell these things. They're found in the tool department. And these are a pair of wire cutting pliers, okay, and they have, a fairly small blade, and you can make tight cuts with them, and they're sharp enough to get through pretty much any shell nicely and cleanly and leave your meat looking good. And then the other one is these guys. These are tin snips for cutting metal sheet. And they have a mechanism that increases the leverage and longer blades, and you can, progress through your shell much faster. And the mechanism adds your leverage, and for me, with my hands as weak as they are now, they're a big help. So these guys will be used to cut the shells up and further and get the crab ready to go on the Tappan grill, which is not going to happen in this video because it's already too long, right? So when we've got it all prepped up and ready, then it will be time to make the surf portion of the Surf and Turf Diner 7th Anniversary Feast. And we'll see you next time here on the cooking zone of the Doomstead Diner. Take care of yourselves, folks.